Hello and welcome to the Agency Scale to Success podcast, your guide to digital marketing growth, brought to you by Globital. My name's Leanne Rogers, Head of Marketing at Globital, and today I'm chatting with Globital's Chief AI Officer, Hugo Silva Pereira, all about generative search and what it means for traditional SEO.
GEO is not going anywhere. Large language models are here to stay, and if anything, they will evolve into a more seamless relationship with the user.
Running a digital agency can be tough without the right support in place. At Globital, we're committed to helping digital agencies scale with tailored resources, personable support, and proactive advice. For many agencies, the barrier to scaling lies in their capacity and not having enough time or resources to be able to grow further. As an exclusively white-label resource partner, Globital can take the stress and pressure off your agency with high-quality digital marketing service fulfillment, ready for you to deliver to your client. Book an obligation-free call with us today and see if it's the right fit for your agency. The link's in the show notes. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Today, we'll be talking all things GEO, generative search, and how it fits with your current SEO strategies. Joining me today, very excited to have our very own AI officer, Hugo Silva Pereira. Welcome, Hugo.
Hi, hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's going to be great today. So at Globital, we've been spending a lot of time behind the scenes researching and developing AI and GEO capabilities, how we can help understand how that affects digital marketing, the digital marketing industry as a whole. And Hugo's been a big driving force behind that. So really looking forward to having this discussion today and getting your insights, Hugo. So first up, I'm sure we've got a massive range of knowledge in the room of what GEO is and everything, but so we're all on the same page. What is GEO and how does it work?
Okay, so hi everyone. Thank you for having me, Leanne. Well, getting straight to the point. So basically GEO, it's pretty much a way for us to optimize our website or our content for large language models. So we've been hearing about a lot of AIO, which is AI optimization. And specifically, when it comes to GEO, we're talking about large language models. So if you want to establish, a guideline, it's pretty much the same as search engine optimization, but focused on large language models such as ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, those kind of large language models that are now coming into play and that are now, used on a daily basis and are kind of reshaping the concept of search engines to some extent. So basically what we are discussing here today is how to optimize our content for large language models, which is GEO, would be my definition of it.
Yeah, awesome. And so how does that differentiate from traditional SEO?
Well, there are a lot of different nuances from the user perspective from the get-go. So for instance, I'm sure that everyone has used already ChatGPT or Gemini. So when it comes to user intent, and this is actually for me a keyword here, when it comes to user intent, we are now in a back and forth relationship with the search engine. So let's address large language models as a new concept of search engines. It used to be that search engine markets or search engine industry was all about one or two big players, and we would optimize 95% or 98% of our efforts to those two particular players. Now with a broader scope of search engines and everyone is using ChatGPT or Gemini, these would be the more mainstream examples. These two players in particular are kind of reshaping the concept of search engine industry. If you're familiar with those from the user perspective, basically there's a back and forth relationship and Q&A between me and the search engine, which kind of narrows down my user intent and is very specific and very objective to my particular needs. So to that extent, I don't need to go through any kind of website or any kind of third party or window just to get my answers out from the search engine itself. So this has quite an impact when it comes to organic traffic, for instance. Now, when it comes to differentiating from SEO, SEO is pretty much all about keywords and how to find the best path for user intent. While here with large language models, we have a direct relationship with the search engine itself. So it's an extension, let's put it that way, of our SEO strategy. So keywords haven't gone away, backlinks haven't gone away, the entire SEO industry has not gone away. And I think this would be an important issue to address right from the get-go. So none of this has disappeared, but it has evolved with the user behavior. So keywords volume are the best way to find our user intent when it comes to SEO, while on large language models, because they have, natural language processing capabilities, they are able to better understand cultural nuances or semantic nuances from the user. And they are more able and more objective to answer user intent and to answer their needs specifically, more than SEO in particular.
Yeah, it's really interesting how the balance is there between it, which is cool. So as I mentioned earlier, we've been doing a big focus at Globital on researching and learning about AI and the impacts and opportunities that present so far with the industry. Can you share a bit about what you've been doing behind the scenes so far with GEO, with the AI services and opportunities that we've brought out as well?
Lovely. So we started this journey about a year and a half ago when the first large language models came out. We all saw it. I mean, the entire industry, we weren't the only ones. We all saw that the paradigm was about to change. So we started digging in on exactly how to optimize our content for large language models. So this is how it began, because we were actually seeing how big this was going to be from the user perspective. So we've started out exactly like everyone, just producing AI content and trying to see how it affected our scores and our domain authorities and our domain rankings. We started going down that path and taking our own conclusions about it. And then it hit the March 4 update, the Google March 4 update, which was kind of, last year's big moment in terms of SEO. So everyone noticed starting from the March 4 update that the organic traffic was coming down. So this has to do with the fact that since large language models came into play, there was this sort of boom in the industry of AI generated content. And we were seeing that everywhere. And Google kind of put a break to it and started polishing large language results and AI results and AI content as a whole. They started kind of polishing when it came to SEO and search engine results and SERPs. So everyone started posing the same questions. What is Google's stance when it comes to AI content? How should we apply AI when it comes to SEO? So what are the best practices that we should follow here? And SEO is never just a one answer kind of game. It's all about many components coming together, specifically with the EEAT. So basically, what we started out to do is we started with doing some testings, content testings more specifically, and we started quite simply trying to understand what was influencing the user behavior. Things like, let's say, for instance, Google clearly positions YouTube as the second largest search engine out there, and the numbers show it is. So it was the way that Google kind of found to counterbalance this AI explosion of content. So it was kind of offering a moment there for everyone to show proof of humanity and authority and EEAT. So to that extent, we started to look at YouTube as a factor of SEO. There's just so many things coming into play. So the first thing is we started deploying content for our blogs. Since then, we've seen that obviously this wasn't enough. AI content just wasn't enough, and it wasn't bringing in the kind of traffic that we wanted to. So we started out trying to understand what was affecting large language models. as a whole. And if you're familiar with SEO, you know that a large portion of your work is to actually make sure that crawlers read your content, right? Google crawlers mainly. So what we did was the same way that we have a bots txt file, we've started pondering and working with the community with a LLM's txt file extension. So basically, it's the same kind of file as the one we use for SEO, but specifically for the large language models. And then we started deploying this kind of information directly into large language models. We started getting a few better results from that. We understood that the way we were approaching our schema of information on the website needed to be improved so large language models could actually better understand our business worked. So this was kind of our first pointer, our first light, our first major discovery, if you will. Then obviously we were talking with everyone in the industry and we were seeing, as I was saying, that Google was facing GEO or AI optimization as a whole with two measures. On one hand, they don't want to stop AI from being a component of content production. But on the other hand, we need to make sure that AI content, whatever AI content we're putting out there, needs to be valuable and needs to add value to the user. So there's, as part of an EEAT component, there's this part where we actually need to have a kind of human aspect to it in terms of authoritative and expertise. There needs to be an author behind the scenes and someone who's actually using AI to enhance their capabilities of explaining to the user what our business does or whatever we're trying to do in terms of content. Apart from the LLMs.txt file extension in our website schema, we started looking into other specific nuances of EEAT and how those affected large language models behavior. For instance, one of the things that we found out was that everything that was around user generated content was actually a major factor as well. So we started working with reviews websites such as Clutch or Trustpilot, Yelp, and we started encouraging customers to leave reviews, obviously Google business profile reviews as well. So those pieces coming in together, user generated content and YouTube strategies, such as this initiative right here, these were kind of pieces in a puzzle that gave us a broader perspective on what SEO is about to become. So it's not just about optimizing for large language models. For instance, social media strategy has a huge component here in terms of bringing in expertise and human content and deploying human content. It's a way for users to understand that whatever they're consuming in terms of content is actually made by a human and is certified and there's someone behind the scenes. So to that extent, not just reviews and user generated content, we actually understood that we needed to step up, for instance, our author pages. So author pages were also one of the things that we've severely worked on. So we've created not just content for our copywriters, but we actually created this whole author pages with LinkedIn access, just trying to show to not just the users, obviously the users as well, but also to large language models and search engine models that there were actually people writing those articles and peer reviewing those articles. And obviously those articles were also generating user generated content. So it's kind of a snowball effect that we started to see that if we were playing different instruments at the same time, very much like SEO in many ways, but the main difference here strategically, I would put it, is that for the first time, the SEO game is not about on-page versus off-page keyword research or keyword optimization. It's more of a 360 overview of our content strategy. So this is a major factor here. And that's why I was getting a bit nervous trying to explain this as best as I could, because there is a social media component to large language models. There is a YouTube component to large language models. There is a user generated component to large language models. And there is a new kind of schema for our website component to the GEO service. So the entire AI industry as a whole has a work in progress signal on top of it. So we haven't really uncovered all the secrets about generative engine optimization or AI as a whole, because this is still a work in progress and it might change tomorrow. But we do know now that, for instance, Google and OpenAI value user generated content. They value everything that actually provides a certain business or a certain specific content, some sort of proof of expertise, of trustworthiness, or EEAT. So EEAT too, in many ways, is now bigger field when it comes. It's not just about the blog posts. It's not just about the meta title descriptions. It now has to do on how we repurpose that content into social media and how that specific content is generating user generated content. So there had been some testings and there was deployed a lot of work into this. It was a frustrating journey at the beginning, and then we kind of hit this light moment, and then we were stuck at a dead end again, and then we made some further advancements. So we basically were able to narrow it down to a few things, as I've mentioned previously, that we were very sure that were making an impact, and that we were quite obviously understanding that those initiatives, such as the new schema for the website, the YouTube strategy, the author pages, for instance, this entire strategy, every time each one of these components was added to our blogs or to our content or to our clients' content, they were actually making a difference. So at the same time, this is an evolution of SEO, but this is an evolution in digital as a whole. So it's kind of difficult to put it down into very quite simple terms to that extent.
So it's best to work SEO and GEO together as two separate campaigns to make the whole, or can you do one over the other depending on what you're wanting to do?
That's a great question, actually. I mean, as far as I see it, this is an extension of SEO. So SEO has not gone away. For all that matters, keyword rankings and keyword research, link building, DRs and the meta tiles, these are all still major components of the GEO part. So SEO has not gone away. So we need to start doing is start working on this more GEO oriented kind of SEO, if you will. So, for instance, a trend that has surged over the course of the last 2 years, for instance, is voice optimization. This was one of the aspects that we were looking into. So there's this plugins that you can add at the top of your content that actually read the content for you. So this kind of generates a transcription in the background and allows large language models to better understand and put it into context what your content is about. So this is one of the things that we started doing. But when it comes to GEO in specific, it's EEAT and SEO is just not enough for large language models. So this doesn't mean that large language models are not able to process your bots.txt file extension or your keywords strategy, but it does mean that GEO will take into consideration a number of factors that haven't been included or haven't been enhanced through EEAT so far. So it's not about working in separate ways, but it's much more of starting to understand that SEO is evolving. And right now, what we can start doing is start working on SEO on a more GEO oriented kind of way. But I wouldn't put it as two different parts, as two different departments, even. If you're into SEO one way or another, you will have to understand how large language models work and how they consume information to better suit your clients. Because whether we like it or not, as I mentioned before, the search engine concept has evolved. And this is a huge advancement in the industry. The truth is, we've pretty much focused most of our efforts on Bing and Google so far. So understanding how large language models work, how to display our content on ChatGPT is actually something that is now a big component of search engine optimization, because ChatGPT needs to be seen by us as an industry, as a search engine as a whole.
Absolutely. So can you give us a couple of practical tips for agencies to maybe just re-optimize the SEO strategy a little bit to start catering to that?
Right. User generated content is definitely at the forefront of this movement, I would say. If you're into copywriting and more focused on SEO as is right now, I would say that optimizing for voice is important. We're seeing a lot of increase when it comes to Alexa's importance or Siri's importance or Google's Assistant's importance on search. If you're using analytics, you've probably came across those sources of traffic already. So with AI incorporating these devices, we are sure that within a year and a half, people will start adopting voice questions or voice search as a habit. So this needs to be seen as a trend in the industry and something that you really need to start working on right now. Now, there are other things other than user generated content and voice optimization, obviously. We also need to better understand user intent and now how users pose their intent. For instance, this is already one way or another a good practice in SEO as a whole, but posing your titles as questions is definitely something. Long tailing your strategy for SEO is definitely a trend as well, with large language models coming into play. And obviously, everything that is around proof of service and proof of concept, everything that you can add as proof of services, whether it's studies or other links, everything that, again, this is nothing new on the SEO scene or EE18 scene. I'm just saying this plays a major role on generative engine optimization. And for last but not least, I would say that video and a new schema markup for your website would be perhaps the most challenging part of the GEO service, or adapting to GEO. So on one hand, you have the new LLMs.txt file, let's call it like that, that allows large language models to crawl your website for content. Some of those need to be inserted directly into the large language models API. For instance, this is something that has never happened before with search engines. Some of those other large language models might not need that. You simply need to work as you do with the bots.txt file extension and just place it on the header of your website. But they can read the LLM's txt file extension. But in other cases, you actually need to directly inject that information via API on the large language model. So this is quite important, and a very new thing for SEO. There's a new component of Python or development or API related skills that haven't really came up with SEO so far. And then video, and specifically YouTube. I mean, there's a lot of people that are already working on YouTube as part of their SEO strategy. And I would say that this is a very smart practice, but I think this is going to gain a whole new proportion. So having a very well-defined YouTube strategy will actually help you to enhance your results on large language models or LLMs. Because when you're uploading a video, you're also at the same time, whether you want it or not, you're uploading a transcript of that video to Google. So in terms of thumbnails, in terms of the entire transcripts, the large language models with their natural language process capabilities, they're able to understand what your video is about, and they're willing to serve video more and more as an answer to user intent. So this is a very important aspect. So if you're looking for recipes, or if you're looking for a specific kind of pieces of content on how-tos, they will definitely show you videos as part of the results, because this is, again, human-made content. And if this YouTube page has a lot of followers, then this at the same time is not just user-generated content, but it's a proof of service, and it's proof of trustworthiness, it's proof of expertise. So this would be, I would say, the two heavyweights of GEO that might come into play and be very different from what we've seen so far in terms of SEO. And on the other hand, I would say that SEO in general needs to be aligned with the highest best practices of EEAT at this specific point, because GEO will not succeed if you don't have an EEAT strategy put into place at the highest level at this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned video there, and it's overwhelming. When you're searching at the moment, everything's just coming up as video.
And then you need to summarize it.
Yeah. Yeah. Can't even count how many times I've gone on there just wanting just a how to instead it's showing a video instead. But that's the push.
Since we're on this subject, I would say that, for instance, when it comes to video, this actually poses a challenge to, I would say, SMEs. Because, video production really exposes, in terms of audiovisual content, really exposes the brand. And, if video isn't well done, then it kind of exposes the brand in a negative way. So this is a factor that I'm sure many SMEs will be fearful about going into YouTube if they haven't done already. So what I'm saying here is, you don't actually need to be in front of a camera and get nervous like I did. You can actually create content from a variety of tools that are already out there in the market, and you don't need to actually put your face on YouTube. Video costs have substantially decreased. So now able to produce video at a much lower cost, which as an SME gives you the capability of producing more content on a more regular basis with the current tools that you have. So it is mostly about losing fear about having your own YouTube channel and actually having someone there or having the expertise, whether it's in-house or with a partner, to really come up with a structure for your YouTube channel. I was just mentioning this because many times we forget about SMEs as a factor here. And SMEs kind of tend to run away from YouTube or video as a whole because it kind of frightens them, not just because of production costs, but exposure as well. So I would argue that the tools that we have right now to our disposal bring down the costs and actually enable you to have more capability of putting out content on a more regular basis. So SMEs out there, if you're listening, you shouldn't be fearful of that. There are ways to do it. You just need to make sure that you structure the whole channel and the entire videos with the proper information, and you have a content line that is actually suited to your audience. So you have better results, not just with YouTube as a search engine, but on large language models as a whole as well.
Yeah, definitely. It can be a little bit intimidating jumping in front of the camera, as well as time factor too. Can take a lot of time, and a lot of small businesses just don't have that time.
Yeah. Right. All you need to know is prompting. So it is the whole path that led us here into creating this GEO service, or even our GEO book, has been a very empirical one. It's about testing, and it's about understanding the behind the scenes of AI. While AI is still in development, there's a lot of information that hasn't been disclosed yet. I would argue that to some extent, even Google is trying to figure out what their strategy is when it comes to large language models and AI content. So again, this is still very much a work in progress. And as it is with SEO, it's not about having results next week. If you open an account on social media, or if you open a blog today, you shouldn't be expecting to be on top of searches or traffic by the end of 1 week or 1 month. So this is very much about consistency, very much about having an editorial line that really aligns with your business purpose and your business objectives, and just start orienting your SEO strategy to understand that the industry has changed and it is now able to incorporate cultural nuances, geolocation nuances. These are new concepts that come into play when it comes to the SEO field. And they're all very intimidating, to be honest with you.
So we've also briefly touched on it already. We have brought out our own white label GEO service.
Mm-hmm.
So can you just tell us a bit about what that involves? Just briefly?
Certainly. So there's basically two ways to approach the GEO service. There's two services within it. So the first would be, I would say, a GEO oriented SEO strategy. So this would be the basic kind of model. And again, this is about us just optimizing your content for voice optimization, incorporating reviews and user generated content, encouraging you to actually have users to leave reviews on your website, you know, trying to assemble that whole strategy. Obviously, YouTube, if you have a YouTube channel, trying to organize that kind of information, that kind of schema, trying to bring that kind of content into your own website as well, your own media. So sometimes people tend to forget that if you have a YouTube channel and if you have a blog channel, you can actually cross those and you can add video to your blog. For instance, you can repurpose the same piece of content into several kind of channels. So this is the basic level for us of GEO, which is kind of giving you a broader structure of what EEAT looks like. Then you have a more premium kind of GEO, which is this more tailored version of it, specifically to each client. And this is really where we start working with the LLM's TXT files, or if you want to, your data schema, your content schema for your website. So the bots.txt file, for anyone who isn't familiar, is basically used as a file for crawlers of search engines to analyze what the content is for your website. Now, large language models need to have schema of their own, and this schema of their own actually needs to have a different structure from the bots.txt. It needs to be analyzed. It may or may not require some changes on the way that you are structuring your content or the way that you are approaching your website structure. So this is a more tailored made kind of GEO. And obviously, again, I would argue that adding small features like plugins that can read the file for you, which are generating transcripts for large language models to better understand your need. So I would say that this is a more tailored level of GEO than the basic one. Although I would say that the standard service is more than relevant. It kind of paves the ground for what is about to come. So if you're not ready to just jump ahead and go for an entire restructure of your website or reinterpreting your schema, because SEO is a lot of work, I would say that at the very least, you should start paving the ground for large language models, because one way or another, many people are already receiving leads or seeing on Google Analytics referrals from ChatGPT. So this is mass adoption in terms of this. ChatGPT and Gemini stand for large adoption of users. So whether we want it or not, we need to start orienting our SEO for that particular aspect. So I would say that the standard part of the service, it kind of paves the ground for that too in the future. And if you really want to have this kind of more tailor-made GEO strategy, then we offer that part as well. But that involves, restructuring, re-understanding your data as a whole.
Some very interesting services there that if you don't want to go it alone, there's options. I'm going to open it up for questions. Now, if anyone's got any questions that they want to shoot Hugo about GEO, what we're doing or what you're doing in space, just pop the comment there or unmute yourself.
I'm going to go. Hi, Leanne.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Hi, Hugo. Thank you for.
Hi, hello.
My brain is fried.
There's a lot.
I know, information overload. So thank you for all that. And Leanne, thank you for organizing it. My thing is, I know very basic SEO and everything else. That's why I rely on the expert who specializes on that field. And Globital has been a great partner for me. What I need to know is I want to move my current clients. I want to have the conversation, but I want to move them to GEO. I don't know if there is going to be the service created as both included into one service that I can actually move my clients to it. So I know that Hugo said it's not replacing it. It's just addition. It's just something that we're going to optimize for the new technology entering the market.
Let me start off by saying that selling this to client, whether it's from Globital's ends or agencies' ends, in many ways, it's about educating the client on what's happening in the industry and what is about to come. So it's kind of that there is a great advantage of being a first mover in this space. Right now, the way we're handling things or the way we're introducing the service into the market is as an extension to the search engine optimization service. So if you have the SEO package, you can actually purchase the GEO service extension for your clients at this point. There's a consultancy aspect to this service as well. Obviously, you'll be talking to the team. They will be walking you through not just the implementation phase, but throughout the selling phase as well. We will obviously give you some pointers and we'll give you some documentation on that as well. But it's not just about selling GEO in separate. It's about extending your services for the SEO packages.
Considering the breakneck speed of AI development and the way things are changing, how is GEO able to keep up and ensure its value proposition remains relevant?
Well, GEO is not going away. Large language models are here to stay. And if anything, they will evolve into a more seamless relationship with the user. Which Apple is kind of torn in between OpenAI or Google to back up Siri as a large language model. I believe they will go with Google. But if anything, GEO or the search patterns or search behavior will evolve as a whole, whether it's through voicing, through new players within the search engine industry. So structuring your data or reinterpreting your data and the way you handle your content as a whole will definitely have an impact on the way users and tools perceive your content. So any of these practices that we have discussed here, they're pretty much just enhancing EEAT practices on one hand. And on the other hand, there's this sort of more technical aspect to it. Now, it will remain relevant because it will not go away, but obviously this is not a finished service. This is an ongoing evolutionary service. And we will most certainly add components to this service as we go along because, again, the AI industry has a work in progress sign on top of it. So tomorrow there might be a release of a new large language model that completely revolutionizes the market. But even if that happens, again, in one way or another, it needs to absorb content. It needs to fetch content some way. And that's the part where Globital is really focused on, which is how do we interact or how do we provide content to large language models or any kind of tool with natural language capabilities. So it's not about the large language models. It's any kind of tool that has the natural language processing capabilities, sorry. It's really more about making sure those tools understand the schema of my content, of my website, and they actually suggest it or pose my business as an answer when user intent requires. Obviously, it's really easy or more relatable, if you will, talking about Gemini or talking about ChatGPT, but this really applies to any kind of AI tool that has natural language processing capabilities. So it will remain relevant. In one way, there will be no tool coming into the market that will kind of shift the way that information is gathered. If anything, they can give more importance to, let's say, for instance, video content, or they might give more importance to any kind of proof of service, such as user-generated content, or they might require a different schema that we need to address or directly inject.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for that. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thanks, Hugo. It's been a really insightful chat. So much information there. And as always, it's constantly evolving. So we'll keep developing and seeing what new things we can learn.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I hope this was kind of a moment where you kind of reflect where the industry is going and what is happening. And obviously, we definitely understand that being a first mover poses a lot of questions from clients and even for ourselves to some extent. So feel free to book the session with me and let's discuss case by case how we can adapt this service to your specific needs.
Guys, thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. That's it for today's episode. If you'd like to chat with us at Globital for an obligation-free discovery session or a GEO consultation, see the show notes for more details. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review so it makes it easier for others to find us too. Until next time.